Why is math and measurement always so confusing? Are it really different or actually the same? Most people get this wrong, but the metric system makes it simple and stress free. Once you get it, everything clicks. Let's break it down the metric system in the easy way. Hello, everybody. Hope you're doing well. My name is Matt Chiasari, and welcome to my channel. So today we are going to talk about another interesting topic: mastering metrics. So again, what does that mean? So let me just talk about the condition that you have to measure the length of your room. So obviously you have to use the meter, measure it. So obviously it has a number, right? So the number on your meter could be two things. One could be inches, another one would be meters. So the process is like this, that which one of those are acceptable for me. Again, there is no right or wrong answer. It's completely based on your need. But in metrics or in specific detail in the metrician, we are trying to convert one unit measurement to another part. Why we're talking about that? Because obviously we don't have a general metric or general unit measurement for something. For weight, sometimes we use pound, sometimes we use kilogram. For the measurement of the meter, sometimes we use the meter itself, or sometimes we use the inches. So in order to understanding that how we can convert one to another one by knowing the fact that sometimes we don't have different units, we do have different prefixes. For example, when we're talking about the meter, millimeter, kilometer. So what does that actually mean? And about how we can convert those together. So this is the today's topic. So after that one, we do have different kind of metrics. One time, for example, we do have about the English metrics, and another one we do have some kind of the US metrics, and after that we do have the general metrics. So we are going to talk a little bit about that, but our main focus is on the general metrics itself. So why we use the metrics? Because many industries are around the world that they're using that one. Some of them using the US one, some of them use the English one, and our job is to understand completely what do they actually mean. Because believe it or not, one way or another, we are going to use that in our day-to-day life. So why again the metrics? What is some kind of decimal edit? That was some kind of the big advantages of the some kind of existence against the other parts. Again, the first one is that decimal based system. What does that mean? It means that when you're talking about the metrics, for example, we are talking about the millimeter or we are talking about the kilometer and we are talking about the inches. So converting have or working with inches, as you can see on the right side of the screen, most of the time considered a bit the some kind of the mixed fractions or the mixed numbers. As you know, a mixed number, as I just mentioned in the previous YouTube videos, is based on the whole number and a fraction itself, right? So it means that when you're going to work with those kind of units, you have to consider the fact that, oh my God, I have to add them up, I have to multiply them sometimes to each other in order to find the area and do other kind of things. In the meantime, if we do have as a metrics instead of inch, for example, we're working with millimeters. The only thing that you have to do add just a couple of numbers, 2 digits, 3 digits, and it would be so simple. So the first reason that we are going to convert or use the metrics for this is we are trying to simplify everything for ourselves. Okay. There's no mixed numbers, there's no messy math, and also for easier to teach and learn. So, for example, look at the right side. We do have two different units. Again, both of them are from the same point. And you can see that for the top part, which is for the English, so that you have 4 inches and 1/8 plus 7 inches, 6/16, and another one is 2 inches, 3/4. Right? So it means that right now I have to add them up. We know how we can do that from the previous videos. Again, you can just look through them and completely understand them. I don't say that's a hard work. That's I say that it can be done in an easier way. Imagine that someone asks you, your boss is asking to add them up. So what do you have to do? First of all, adding the whole numbers together. After that, adding the fractions. But oh, that's not simple. Why? Because fraction, they don't have the same denominator. Finding the least common denominator, add them up, and if they surpass the value, you have to add another value to the whole number. Oh, that would be so messy. So what would happen if I can find an easier way? I would completely buy it. Know about you? So, for instance, instead of just consider inches, I would consider the millimeter. So, millimeter or meter, or any other kind of meter related thing considered as the general or the universal thing that we are talking about, the unit measurements. So convert all of them to millimeter. I do have 85, 194, I do have 57. So the only thing that I have to do, add them up. And again, I do have a separate video about how you can add two-digit, three-digit numbers based on the carrying. So the whole idea is over here is like this, that we are trying to simplify everything, especially when we are talking about the units itself. So when we do have English system, again, right now we're talking about just about the measure. I know there are different kind of unit measurement in both of them. But for the English system, we do have inches. For example, we do have 4, 1/8, and we do have other kind of thing that we consider as inches. If you want to add them up, you have to simplify it like that. So challenging, so time consuming. In the meantime, we do have the metric system. Metric system is the general and universal, is acceptable one in so many kind of scenarios. So we do have the metric system. We add them up, and bam, that's it. So you can see that at the end of this part, we do have the addition of the some kind of 85, 194, and 57, I do have an answer 336 millimeter that just converted to 33.6 centimeter. What does that mean? Stay tuned. We're going to talk about all of it. So we have another concept. We had something that we know it as the metric prefixes in everyday use. I believe you heard about that. For instance, when you go to a grocery store, instead of just having the some kind of the pound itself, so you say that okay, how much kilogram it is. For example, it's 2 kilogram or 4 pounds. Right now, our focus is just the metrics. Okay, so we are talking about the kilogram. So the thing is, listen to the word that you're mentioning, kilogram. What does that mean, kilogram? What is gram? Again, gram is just a way that you can measure the weight, right? What does kilo mean? Kilo means 10 to the power 3 or thousands of times bigger than 1 gram. So obviously we don't have only that one. We do have different kind of metrics, right? When we're talking about kilobytes, something related to the computer science, right? So when you're talking about the kilobyte, gigabyte, megabyte, what do they actually mean? So you can use a table like this. Again, these numbers are so good to be memorized. You can use it in the future work. But I believe, first of all, you have to understand it. What does it actually mean? For example, when we are talking about the kilo, we are talking about the one with three zeros or something like this, right? When we are talking about the mega, we are talking about six numbers or 60. When we are talking about the hecto or deca, we're talking about two and one. Another thing that we have, so obviously we don't have all the time the numbers are going to be bigger than one, right? When we're talking about the kilo, mega, and giga, they're all the numbers that are bigger than one. But what would happen? I do have a number, it's between 0 and 1. It's going to be smaller, right? So have you heard about the millimeter? So obviously we heard, right? What does it mean, millimeter? As you can see over here, each prefix means something. On another side, I do have kilometer. On another side, I do have millimeter. Kilo means 1,000 times bigger than 1 meter. And millimeter means that 1,000 times is smaller than 1 meter. Is that so? So we do have it as 10 to the power negative 3, or we do have as what? I can write it down for you. It would be something like this. We know about decimal. It's not that hard. We know about it. So it means that next time, if someone asks you to convert a number that it's in millimeter to meter, you only have to divide it by 1,000. We do have the micro, we do have a nano, we do have the pico. Okay, so maybe sometimes it would be a little bit challenging to count all of those zeros. But remember, milli means that 10 to the power negative 3, they get to the power, I mean, some kind of how many times those numbers are multiplied by each other. When we do have 10 to the power negative 3, means that 1 over 10 as a fraction or zero point 0.1 multiplied by itself 3 times. So if you have any problem about the powers, I will probably record another video about that one, which will be about the next section. So don't worry about it. We will talk about it later, but this is not the concept right now. So when we do have the micro, means that 10 to the power negative 6 means that would be five sixes before one. When we are talking about the some kind of nano, 9. When we are talking about this one, which is the pico, 12. So as you can see over here, I do have numbers between 0 and 1 that I can use the prefixes, and I do have numbers more than 1 that I can use other prefixes as well. So here's this one fact that okay, how I how I can somehow make my some kind of work easier by some kind of using something like this. That okay, when we are talking about the numbers, it has a smaller unit, and when I do have a number that it has a larger unit. Imagine that I do have the 5 itself, right? And 5 is considered as the kilometer. And I would ask you to convert that guy to what? To meter. As we know, kilo means 10 to the power 3 or 1,000 times bigger than meter, right? So the only thing that you have to do, you see that there is small, some kind of unit over here. So I will just show it to you. So if I want to convert the kilometer actually to meter, the only thing that I have to do that I do have this small point at this place, right? So the only thing that you have to do just move the decimal point to the right. But here's the important part. How many steps? Look at the number or look at the unit that you see, kilometer. Kilo means 10 to the power 3. So I do have three zeros. Based on the number of zeros, I have to move to the right. When I do have 5 kilometer, and I want to move to the right, which means that the only thing that I have to do, because I need more zeros, right? I have to show it that it's bigger. So 5 kilometer to meter means that 5 times 10 to the power 3 or 5 times 1,000. I have to move 3 points to the right. In the meantime, when I do have a larger unit and I would like to convert it to a lower one, for instance, I do have what? I do have 350 meters. So if I want to convert it to kilometers, the only thing that you have to do, just do everything backward. When you move three some kind of zeros to the right in order to convert a kilometer to meter, you have to turn to the right. And when you have the larger unit and you want to convert that kind of meters to kilometers, you have to move 3 points or three decimal points to the left, which we do have it over here. So it would be 350, and we just move it to the left itself. So as I just mentioned, we do have the table, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we need all of them. That's why we do have some abbreviation, and I'm going to talk about the quick examples of how I'm going to use that. So, very first thing that you see is just about the millimeter. As we know, each millimeter is 1,000th of a meter, 0.001 meter. So, how I can make an example? The tip of the pencil that you have is about 1 millimeter. Another that is so common is centimeter. So, what is the centimeter? Means that 100th of a meter. Again, we consider meter as a reference and we change the prefixes based on that. So, what is an example? It's about your pinky finger, right? So, if you have a pinky fingernail, it's about 1 centimeter wide. And another question would, another something would be about the kilometer. Heard about that, right? Means that 1,000 times the meter. A running track is about some kind of point 0.4 kilometer. So when we have a point 0.4 kilometer, you know that it means that 400 meters. So we had this different kind of examples that you had it in day to day life, and it's not going to mention that. So here's the question: that how I can read metric scale. Sorry. So obviously, when you have a number, you have to read it, right? So we do have different kind of steps. The very first step is that always try to start at zero and read to the end point. For instance, when I do have 8.35, just listen how I started. I start from the very, very first number just beside the decimal, 8.35 centimeter. Imagine that I convert this guy to millimeter. You remember that, right? 6 centimeter is 10 millimeter. So it would be 83.5. So I start from the left and I move to the right. And also, it is important to look at the unit itself. Remember, when you do have the measurement, you also have to be careful about what kind of unit measurement you're using. Is it inch? Is it some kind of using the metrics? Is it kilo? Is it millimeter? Is any other kind of thing? You have to look for that because if you don't look at that one, you're obviously going to face some problems. And after that, it's just about the remembering this millimeter, kilometer are some kind of very, very common thing that you have to remember about the relationship of the milli, kilo, and the meter itself. And after that, you can see that all of those numbers are going to be aligned with each other. You can read them, and it's so, so easy and simple. So when we do have the some kind of the comparison, again, I gave you some kind of example that what does that mean? For example, when we do have the yard, again, yard is some kind of about the English metrics. We are talking about the length from, for example, the nose to end of your some kind of the outreach hand, and we do have 1 meter is about the length from your ear to the end of your outreach hand. When we do have the 1 centimeter, again, it's about the fingernail, and when you do have the 1 liter, it means that about the one. So you're using it the liter much more of the time. So let's some kind of talk about the place value and decimals. Again, if you remember, I told you that if you do have a bigger number and you would like to convert it to a smaller one, again, when we're talking about the bigger number, it doesn't necessarily mean that one number is bigger than another. Because again, we know both of them are the same. Both of them has to specifically talk about the same value. But when we're talking about bigger prefixes, to a smaller one, we have to use more zeros. When we are talking about vice versa, we have to reduce down the zero. How we can add more zeros? Moving decimal points to the right. How we can reduce the zeros? Moving decimal points to the left. For example, at this point, you see that I do have an example. I do have a 15 liters and I would like to convert it to milliliters. We know that the liter is the way that we can measure the volume, also talking about some kind of the liquids. So when we do have the liter and I would like to convert it to milliliter, you look at this one. Each liter is 10 to the power 3 on 1000 milliliter. So the only thing that I have to do, move to the right with three zeros, so I do have 15,000. If I do have 150 grams and I would like to convert it to kilogram, I know I have to divide the whole thing by what? By three, by 1000. It means that three zeros to the left. Move the decimal point to the left, and after that, I do have everything that I need. Again, is another form of the table itself, so you can see different kind of prefixes that we were talking about. And also, we do have the ruler or some kind of we have axis that is going to help you. So every time, if you want to convert something to smaller units, you know that you have to multiply them by something. If you want to convert it to larger unit, you know that you have to divide them by some kind of by thousand or by some kind of by some numbers. So let's see an example. Let's see that how each of these numbers are going to work. So I'm going to give you some time, just a couple of seconds. You work on them, stop the video, and after that we can talk about it. That how we can convert one number to another. So I believe you all did it right, but again, just for a review, I do have 1 liter, and I would like to know that how many milliliter is that, based on the fact that I know each one is 10,000. I'm sorry, is 1,000 milli, right? So the only thing that you have to do just multiply one by 1,000. Obviously, just 1,000 itself, right? What about the 10 centimeter? So if we would like to convert it to millimeter, we know that each centimeter is 10 millimeter. So 10 multiplied by 10, and it would be 100. 4 kilogram to gram. Each kilogram is 1,000 grams, right? 4 multiplied by 1,000, which is 400 or 1,000 grams. 8.5 kilometer to meter. We know that 8.5 should be multiplied by what? 1,000 itself. Again, if you have any problem about the multiplication of decimal, I do have a separate video. I just put a link on the top and you can just look at it. I know there's no problem about that one, but it would be better to have some reviews. So 8.5 times 1,000. How much would that be? It would be 8,500 meters. I do have 0.562 millimeter, and I'm about to convert it to centimeter. You know, millimeter is smaller than centimeter. So if I want to convert the smaller one to the bigger one, I have to divide it by a number. So if you divide it by 10, because we know that each centimeter is 10 millimeter, so each millimeter is 0.5, 10% of the centimeter itself. So I do have that as 0.562 centimeter. Another question. I do have a 6,000 milliliter and I would like to convert it to a bigger unit measure. So I would like to divide it by 1,000 because I know it's a smaller one to the bigger one. So I do have 6 liter, 500 centimeters to meter. Each meter is 100 centimeters. So I do have it as a 5. And each milliliter, obviously, it should have to be divided by 1,000. So if you divide that by 1,000, you have this number. And after that, you have 6.2 centimeter. I would like to convert it to a millimeter. I do have it as I do have it as 62. And after that, I do have 75 centimeter. I would like to convert it to millimeter. Well, so what milliliter? Oh my God. I do have a centimeter. I would like to convert it to millimeter. So I have to just multiply by 10. Again, questions are simple. The only thing that you have to know is important prefixes. And after that, how you can use them. So we talked about the some kind of this metrics before, and sometimes maybe you would have this question that okay, how and when I can do that? It's completely basic. It means that at some point you do have, for instance, three different numbers. You have 100 millimeter, you have 200 millimeter, you have uh, I don't know 1,500 millimeter, and after that, at the end, I would ask you to add them up and give me the meter. Either you can do it before adding, converting the 100 millimeter to meter before that, add them up, and after that, you have the final answer, or add them up and after that, do that. For instance, look at this question. I do have a cube, and for example, I do have some kind of this this shape, and after that a square mean, and after that, I would like to find the area of this. So obviously we know that area is one side to another, so it's not a square, you see. It's rectangular, so I do have 5 centimeter multiplied by 4 centimeter. Is that so? So I would like to have this one as 20 centimeters squared. Again, it's just a unit for the area itself. If you have any problem about the area, about the volume, or if any other kind of related thing, just comment me below and I would probably make another video based on that. So I do have a 20 centimeter, and the question is just specifically asked to keep that one as the centimeter square. But imagine that the question was asked that, okay, convert this one to meters squared. How we can do that? Obviously, the very, very good way is that first of all, convert those to meter first, and after do the multiplication. Because if you want to convert that one 20 to square meter, it would be a little bit challenging. I'm not saying it's hard, it's a little bit challenging. And here we are trying to simplify everything. Another question would be just about the volume itself, right? So you know about the volume. One side to the power of 3, or we do have different kind of side, and they have to multiply by each other. So I do have cube shape, so 3 times 2 times 5, and I do have the volume itself. Again, remember, 1 meter is 100 centimeter, and 1 centimeter is just about the 10 millimeter itself. So again, we do have the quick quiz itself. I'm not going to answer that one. Obviously, you know how to do it, different kind of things. I would like to convert it to the right one, and you can comment me on this kind of the comment section that you have a right answer, wrong answer, and just write down all of the answers. That would be fantastic, and also it would be helpful for other people as well. So we talked about this one, and after that, let's just little talk about why we're again having the metrics, why we don't have a US or English one. So the thing is that most of the time, and more than 90% of the time, the units that we are using in a different part of the areas, for example, when you're talking about the Euro rather than English itself, when you're talking about the Europe, Asia, Africa, or any kind of things, so they are going to use the metrics. Why? Because they're useful for the science and research. If you just look at look at the paper, just based on the metrics itself, and if you just like the medicine and healthcare, just about the metrics. And if you're talking about the engineering and design, again, he talked about metrics and also about manufacturing. And also, everything would be about the metrics itself. That is why we most of the time try to use the metrics rather than just one that we had before. So that's why we are trying to put our focus also on it. So in this chapter, in this session, we were talking about how we can use the metric system and why we are using that and what are the things that we can some kind of convert it to that, right? So again, the metric system, it consider the prefix ladder. It means that at this point, you do have kilo, you do have hecto, you have deca, you have the base itself, or you have the milli one, you have the pico, you have the nano, and you have the micro, and you know how to convert. Another some kind of abbreviation would be about the millimeter, centimeter, meter, kilometer, milliliter, liter itself, gram, kilogram itself. So for the decimal move rules, as I just talked about it, if you would like to convert the smaller units to the bigger one, you have to move the decimal to the left. And if you would like to convert the bigger one to the smaller one, you have to move the units to the right itself. For instance, 5 meters means 5,000 milli, 5,000 milli. And after that, we do have a quick comparison between the some kind of the metrics and the US English and the US one. For example, when we talk about the feet, pounds, square, inch. So it would be better to focus on the metrics itself because from now on in this channel, and most of the channels are running in your school, if you are not in the some kind of US or English school yet, they're going to use the metrics itself. Again, thank you very much for being here with me today. Have yourself a great day, night, whatever. See you.